very good evening to you and welcome to yet another edition of Face the Nation. Last evening, at the 11th hour, the US-sponsored resolution was tabled at the United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner in Geneva. Now, what does this resolution really mean? Sri Lanka is a co-sponsor of this resolution in question. Have we really achieved victory in the eyes of the international community? Are we on the right track? Does it mean Sri Lanka will have to make real systemic change, including perhaps changing the country's constitution? To discuss all this and more, I have with me this evening 4 guests. 3 of them are lawyers and 1 of them is an engineer. Let me introduce our guest this evening. Let's start off with Mr. Krishmal Varnasurya, attorney at law. Attorney at law, Dr. Pratibha Mahanamheva. Mr. Asoka Begunawardhan, Chairman of the Strategic Management Enterprise, who is also an engineer by profession, and also Mr. Gomindasri, attorney at law. Let's start off with Mr. Krishmal Varnasurya, attorney at law. Mr. Varnasurya, what does the US-sponsored resolution mean? The time starts now. 3 minutes.
Hi Shamir and hi Sonali Nadeep. Nice to be back in your studio again. Thank you for inviting us. US sponsored or otherwise, what we must realize is we need to look at it from a constitutional perspective. We are lawyers. In the whole resolution, I believe we are here to discuss the aspect of it that relates to the law and the implementation of the legal mechanisms. That's what we will probably discuss. Shamir, our constitution is very clear that no organ exercising judicial functions will be recognized unless it comes within the 4 corners of the constitution. It must be an institution, anyone to meet a justice to anyone in Sri Lanka. Now, the most recent incident where this came up to check was where a divisional bench of 5 judges during the impeachment case were very clear that it is a judicial arm, a branch exercising judicial power of the people. Article 3, sovereignty power of the people, as you know, are divided into 3. Legislative, executive, judicial. It is only a branch that exercises judicial power of the people that can stand in judgment over anyone. So whether it's UN sponsored or US sponsored or even Sri Lanka sponsored, it must come within those 4 corners. Now that's the law. Now we have a situation where from, I don't think the time is enough.
You have 2 minutes.
Right.
Sorry.
If we go into the history of, maybe we can as we go on, the history of the resolutions that have come up. First, we had last year, we had a resolution that was almost forced upon us and they were calling for an international body. Now, once again, unless that could be recognized in our law, such a body can't judge people in Sri Lanka. Now, then we had a talk of a hybrid system where we spoke of a bit of this and a bit of that. And now we hear the US Sri Lanka sponsored resolution where they're talking of a purely Sri Lankan mechanism, but of course they're also speaking of a special council and foreign lawyers and experts, etc. Now, we'll have to, this is an interesting question, we will have to see how Sri Lankan constitution will recognize all of this. Because as I said before, Sri Lanka is not a monoist country. In international law, we talk of a dualist and a monoist system. We are a dualist country. For anything, any international treaty or any international obligation to be encumbered upon Sri Lanka, we must domesticate it by enabling legislation here. Now, we have a further question. There are judgments of the Supreme Court that have held that even when a president goes and ratifies a treaty, even if there is enabling legislation brought in Sri Lanka, if that violates the sovereignty of the people, then that act itself is not recognized. So, we will have to see as to what this mechanism is that the government is proposing and how that will sit within the 4 corners of our constitution before we speak of going any further. And to that, we will of course have to await and see what the government will come out with as a proposal to implement this resolution.
You have 1 minute, Mr. Varnasurya.
Right. And then, since I have time, can I just go back in history and say that Geneva phobia, or talking of Geneva, and this is nothing new to politics. As much as we look at what is happening in Geneva now, let us also not be too naive to think that news as we see is not necessarily news per se. For example, the earlier regime spoke of Geneva and electric chair and said, well, please stand with us, because we are standing for our sovereign right to protect Sri Lanka from Geneva. Now we appear to have our saviors in this regime, saying, well, we are going to now save us from Geneva. But end of the day, the theme Geneva runs constant. So whilst for another 5 years we will go on with our merry governing, Geneva will be talked of. So whilst yes, we must address the very real issues in front of us, which is the resolution and how we are going to counter that, let us also not forget that there is a political angle or a political scenario behind Geneva. Whether it's world powers or whether it's domestic powers. So I think that's also something that citizens must be aware of when we are discussing Geneva.
Thank you very much, Mr. Krishmal Varanasuriya, attorney at law. I now move on to Dr. Pratibha Mahanabheva, who is also an attorney at law. What must Sri Lanka be mindful of with regard to this US-sponsored resolution? Dr. Mahanabheva, your time starts now.
First of all, thank you very much for inviting these programs. The first time I participated.
Good, Dr. Mahanabheva.
Now, the impact for Sri Lanka. This is where they started with the hybrid code. The whole country, the whole world talking about hybrid code. Now, to dilute that, what happened? The US-sponsored resolution came up. In the US-sponsored resolution, I like one statement very much, which say Sri Lanka military who conducted themselves with honor and professionalism. That means now UN, USA, they really recognize it's a humanitarian intervention. It's not violation of human rights. Now, this resolution really giving 3 areas: truth, justice, reconciliation. That means no hybrid code. Don't worry about the legal system in Sri Lanka. This is where we can start, not an inquiry. How to promote human rights in the world. We can do it because we are a signatory to several human rights conventions. That is 1948 UNDHR and 1966 Civil and Political Right Convention. So based on these, we can have a national inquiry. That is where recognized by many countries. We can get the assistance from Commonwealth Human Rights Division. So rather than a legal body, it is where to promote, to protect, to respect human rights, this resolution can lead us. So there is no hybrid code now. There is nothing called a system for punish people. This is where awarding damages, those missing people, they have given a system for that. Now earlier what happened? Before January 8th, Sri Lanka never cooperated. So therefore, they set up this international inquiry, but it is a partial one without the host country. Now the report was released. Immediately after releasing the report, once again we are discussing it. What's the use of this? They should have easily referred that to the Security Council. For the Israel matter, later I'll explain all. They referred that. But here, once again discussing this report, what's the use of that? If Sri Lanka military committed war crimes, then it will be decided by the Security Council. But rather than doing it, once again another type of inquiry they are proposing. Why Sri Lanka? This may be a precedent. That's why India today remain absent, and also South Africa. But other countries are supporting.
30 seconds more, Dr. Mahanabheva.
That's good. We must have some type of inquiry. It's a domestic one, but not to punish, but to promote human rights situation in Sri Lanka. It is, I called a national inquiry where we can upgrade our system. So rather than it's a legal system, but we have a signatory for several conventions. Based on that, we are writing reports for treaty bodies. And we have accepted universal periodical report, 101 voluntary recommendations. Now we have to fulfill those before 2016. So all these issues are there. So together, now US-led resolution is supporting for a domestic mechanism. You decide by yourself. That's, I think, now we are in the correct path.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pratibha Mahanabheva. I now move on to Mr. Asoka Begunawardena, Chairman of the Strategic Management Enterprise Agency. Mr. Begunawardena, is this a victory for the island nation, Sri Lanka?
Well, actually, the victory happened in 2009. After that, what we have to look at is the broader picture. how the things happened since then and what is the impact of the international community right now. So my opinion is that I do not think the international community is doing the right thing right now, because they have to understand the difference the country is situated right now prior to 2009. So the difference is that now the people, the land is liberated from the terrorism. Now they are living here and they have their own president, they have their own provincial council, they have their representatives in the parliament, and they have gone to the extent that they have the opposition leader as well. So within this context, what exactly is the role of the international community and whether they have the right intervention, irrespective of whatever the intention of the international community. What they are doing right now, firstly, they are trying to dig the past and start discussing about the history, and secondly, they may be discussing about the devolution of the power. The way I understand is that already the Tamil community is integrated with the Sri Lankan government, because they are represented in all bodies. So how to go further is the way we have to look at it. So first priority is not digging the past and also not devolving the power. What we can do from here is to share the power at the center. Now to a certain extent it's happening, and we need to further encourage that process and allow the Tamil people to develop their areas as they intended, and with their representatives working closely with the Sri Lankan government. If that happens, then the intervention of the international community will have a different impact, because then at present there were certain representatives of international community in Sri Lanka. Originally UNP was representing to a certain extent the international community, the concerns, and then the TNA.
30 seconds more.
And now in this setup, I think if we can resolve the issues locally, reconciliation, if it's happening locally, then the impact of whatever the decision taken at the Geneva will have no significant impact on the Sri Lankan society.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asoka Begunawardena. I now move on to Mr. Govinda Asri. Mr. Asri, last week on the same show, you were very critical about the High Commissioner's report on Sri Lanka. You said it was biased. However, now you have a new resolution, the US-sponsored resolution, and Sri Lanka is a co-sponsor. What is your stand now? Your time starts now.
Well, Sri Lanka was anesthetized into feeling good, thinking that the Ranil Wickremesinghe government is going to have a lifelong romance with the West. But the West, unfortunately, America, the bridegroom has killed the bride immediately on return of the honeymoon, because this puts the government in a serious spot. That is my belief, for the reason that if you look at it, the UN was quite frank. They called it a hybrid. They said it must have the Sri Lankan sources, it must have the foreign sources. The word hybrid is not there, but we have something more. It's an inverted hybrid. What does it mean? It means foreign judges, foreign prosecutors, foreign defense counsel, foreign investigators. So what is happening? It is that the venue is in Colombo, but the circus has just moved venue. But it's entirely a foreign show in the local scene. It's a local courtroom, it's a local cloakroom, it's a local washroom, but the rest of it is all foreign. Now, can we tolerate this situation? Because the people are very proud that in this country, unlike all the countries that are coming here, the Western powers, we have eliminated terrorism. And this show is going to take place in Colombo before the people. Now, how would the people react to a government that is trying to discredit the forces, put people who felt elated on having won the war, the euphoria? reaction is going to be very hard on the government. I think it is very unfair what the West has done to Sri Lanka. Having taken us all the way, having got all these assurances that they would play fair, they do it the most foul thing by saying, America saying, and making the government of Sri Lanka a co-sponsor. Poor Mr. Sirisena, he's in Washington, he's in New York, due to address the UN. His constituency is Polonnaruwa. Now, what is the message he can give? It's true, in Colombo it's not there, but people in Sri Lanka don't want disgrace to befall this country. And that is going to happen because what has happened, they have said a lot of nice things. It's like carrying Sri Lanka, said, he's a jolly good fellow, he's a jolly good fellow, and then you drop him dead. Halfway up, you throw him up and then fall flat on the ground. That is what has happened. They say all the nice things, but the most important thing is we will have inquiries, domestic mechanism, but into that mechanism we are bringing in foreign judges, foreign prosecutors, foreign lawyers, foreign investigators. Who else is there? I mean, it's a totally foreign show in a local venue. That's the end result of it, and the government has to face the music. Because this show is, the local media will take over. I remember when the last Human Rights Commission was there, Udulagama Commission, it was only Sirasa that broadcast the thing live day and night. Here you will have the whole foreign media. And you know, we have had the experience of foreigners in this country. We had the IPKF, were they popular? We had the Norwegians as negotiators. We had the Swedish as monitors. Now, all those, that didn't go well with the Sri Lankans. Now we are having the whole troop here. All the guys and the dolls are out on parade. It could have, the show would have been in London, Washington, Montreal, or Geneva. No, the show is in Colombo. It makes it much worse for the government to have it here, and I think the government is going to have to backtrack because within the government there is division. Champika Ranawaka says, no, we are not going to have this kind of thing. More, Dr. Senaratna says we will have a totally independent inquiry. President Sirisena says that this is 100,000 times it would have been worse if Mahinda Rajapaksa was in office. Now this is not a struggle between Sirisena and Rajapaksa. It's Sri Lanka that matters.
Thank you very much, Mr. Dasri. We move on to the journalist round. On to my immediate left is Sonali Vanikabaduke. On to my far left is Nadine Majid. 20 minutes. It's all yours.
Thank you, Shamir. Well, I'd like to direct my first question to you, Ms. Varna Surya. The US State Department issued a press release in the wake of the US resolution and Sri Lanka's co-sponsorship. Now, there's a clause which says, this resolution marks an important step towards a credible transitional justice process owned by Sri Lankans. I repeat, owned by Sri Lankans, and with the support and involvement of the international community. Now, this was by US Secretary Kerry. So, in your opinion, does this mean the US is for a homegrown transitional justice process? Because there is no mandatory clause as such about international judges.
Sonali, I first like to thank the US government for giving us ownership of our own legal system. But unknown to them, we anyway own it. We don't need anyone to tell us that we own our legal system. Now, that is a statement. Let me put this way. All of us are for a process of truth and reconciliation. No one is saying no. If there have been crimes committed, that has to be addressed. And I am very much for that. I'm very much for it. I remain for it. But if you look at this resolution on the statement that you're saying, what are they saying? To establish a judicial mechanism with special counsel to investigate allegations, etc., under international humanitarian law for a credible justice process with independent judicial and prosecutorial institutions. So, are they then saying that we don't have a credible justice process in Sri Lanka and that our judicial and prosecutorial institutions are not independent and impartial? So, I mean, no sooner I accede to this, I as a lawyer have a big problem with this. We are saying that our judges are not independent, our Attorney General's Department is not able to prosecute properly, and that we don't have independent judicial system.
Mr. Ramasuri, yes, do you have the answers to those three questions? Do we have a credible legal system? Are our judges independent? is our Attorney General's department capable of prosecuting?
I should like to think so, and if not, I would be the first one to hang my cloak and go home. I'm sure as all of these lawyers will, but that does not mean that we don't have problems. Any problem, even in the US, which I visited last year, and I had occasion to meet some of the Supreme Court judges and talk to them. Even in the US, nothing is as tickety-boo as we said, and as it is nowhere in the world. Even there, some judges are appointed by the president, and there is a quid pro quo. But as it is in Sri Lanka. But I'm not saying that we have no country in the world will have 100% secure system. But I am not willing to sit here and accept as a lawyer who has given an oath on this constitution and sworn to uphold the constitution of our country, that our judicial system is not independent, that our prosecutorial process is not impartial or unjustifiable. I mean, then we can't accept that. No, we can certainly get assistance. I'm not saying let's not get assistance. But let's not overstep the mark also, Sonali and Nadeem. That's what I'm trying to say. Because no sooner we go on your statement and thank the US for accepting that, okay, yes, you all can have a homegrown system. We don't need the US or anyone for that matter to tell us that our constitution says that we have judicial powers in the people, and the people have told that the system of courts will exercise it. We have it. We don't need anyone to tell us that. But of course, since you're working with the world, with UN bodies and international treaties, there is a way that we can deal. But I think we need to find a mechanism where our independence is secured and our system of courts are given the primary function of doing this, of course with some assistance that will not impede with the sovereign power of the people. That is important. It should not impede with the sovereign judicial power of the people that the people have vested in courts in our country, in our system.
Mr. Varnasuri, at the same time, people in our country, not a majority, but sections of the population in our country are calling for not just a domestic or even a hybrid mechanism, but a full-blown international investigation with international courts. So, does that mean that the faith in the judiciary has been undermined to an extent where it can no longer be credible?
Certainly, I know that there are certain segment of the people calling for it. I have a political answer and a legal answer to this. I give you the legal answer because I'm a lawyer. Firstly, they are entitled to do that. Anyone in this country has an entitlement to express their opinion. They are entitled to do that. But if I, as a Sri Lankan citizen, on one side say that I am a citizen and proud of my sovereign power, which I alone own, no one else, not even the government has a sovereign power. We have it. I can't on the other side say I am not happy with our court system. If that is so, we have to find a solution within our country to make it so. I am not saying, as I said before, we don't have problems. We may. But we need to address it domestically. All I'm trying to say is we don't need someone else trying to come and say, okay, old chap, now this is how a court must run in Sri Lanka. We don't need that. We'll find a way how. If those people are unhappy, they must come and tell us, and then not tell me, but they must express it, and we must find a way of rectifying our court system. Certainly, if no one is happy, we can do that. But that doesn't mean that someone else can tell us how to do it.
Mr. Astri, do you agree with the statement that was made by Mr. Varnasuri?
Sorry, I don't agree with you.
What is your take on this?
My take is that there are many deficiencies in our system. Those deficiencies, don't blame the judges alone, don't blame the Attorney General's Department alone, blame the lawyers also. Much of the delays, much of what is happening today, the blame should be directly pointed at all three parties, but inclusive of lawyers. So I don't hold any defense for lawyers. I'm a lawyer, and you can make any criticism, I have to take it. Well, there is a system in this country. That is, we do not have to go to regular courts for this kind of investigation, because we have had that experience. We have had criminal justice commissions. We have had commissions of inquiry. Now, the last commission of inquiry into human rights was such a thing where if you don't have faith in the judiciary, I think that people don't have some faith in the judiciary today, because judicial officers have acted not in a way that the judiciary should act at times. That is because of over-politicization of the whole system. But on the other hand, if you remember, we had an inquiry in this country where members of the civil society were the judges. I mean, in this country we have very respectful people, very respectable people whom we can respect with high esteem. Such people could sit on those boards. We can have judges, we can have lawyers, we can have other people, eminent people to inquire into, because this is a fact-finding commission that ultimate purpose is to find a solution, and also that this kind of thing that doesn't recur in any way. And for that purpose, there is what is called the Commission of Inquiry Act. Now the last government, if you remember, appointed Mr. Udulagama as the chairman, Supreme Court judge, and along with him appointed several people from civil society like Jessima Ismail, Dr. Nezaiya.
But nothing substantial took place following the appointment of this commission.
No, very substantial things did happen. Now, for example, if you know the Chole case, everybody said that we had gone and attacked the Navy, Air Force had attacked infant school, school for little children. Instead of that, what was it found? It was found to be a training camp for the LTT. And who gave evidence? The parents who said that their children were captured while they were travelling to school on A9. The principal of that Tamil school in Jaffna who said all the children were taken away.
But so, Ms. Astri, the international community directed the finger at the government, the then government, saying that there was no genuine effort. There was no genuine effort taken by the former government to address issues in terms of human rights violations and even accountability for that matter.
You're quite right. The accusation was made, but at the same time, if you remember the Senchole case, after that, did anybody else complain that this was a school, that was a little school for infant children that was attacked? That went off. And also remember, please, that the mistake was the government did continue with the investigations that the commissioners called upon them to do thereupon. That was a fault of the Attorney General's department. These things were directed to them. Those investigations took place. So in that sense, the government is at fault for not continuing that process. But now we have come to a stage where a very sensible arrangement of a defense mechanism is being set, a mechanism which is inherent to the country, a domestic tribunal. Now, into that domestic tribunal, I do not think it is necessary that all of those who should be appointed should be judges. I don't think.
May I just cut?
No, please, please.
No, give me a second.
You will have your turn. You
so
can.
Just to add
I will give you the time.
Please.
No, I asked you.
Ms. Astri, yes, you can continue.
Right. You can appoint people, eminent people. I mean, you can people, the law professors can be appointed. People who have a legal training or non-legal training, like my good friend, who knows quite a bit of these things. So a lot of people can come into this kind of hearing because you can't have just one panel. You may have to have several panels because we must finish these things. Not take on like Cambodia, it's going on for years. And what has happened for 20 years, there was no inquiry. It is true that we are deficient, but remember even in America, the Hispanics, the blacks are always complaining that they don't get equal treatment. It was only the other day some young boy was killed by a policeman, and the policeman, though there was abundance of evidence, was released.
Dr. Mahanaveva, do we have the right system in place in order to conduct a domestic inquiry, in order to bring out closure and ensure that there is a protection of human rights in the island?
Before that, I have to tell you, there is no domestic system. Our law is English law. From 1815, March 15th up to now, we are running by English law and Roman Dutch law. Our inheritance legal system was there. Tesa Walame law, Candian law, Holy Al-Quran, those are not there. So even we show we have a domestic system, no, purely those are Wales system, traditions and conventions followed in those UK 4 parts.
If that's the case, what is the domestic mechanism that we are talking
about?
That's
why I am first trying to tell you, we don't have a domestic system like that. Even our laws are ignored by all our leaders. The issue, whether we are having a system to run, yes, we can get structures from Commonwealth. Commonwealth, Human Rights Division, they have certain type of conducting inquiries that is called national inquiry or a domestic inquiry that is purely based on promote human rights in the country. So therefore we have to prepare a TOR, term of reference, that we can get the technical assistance from UN or technical assistance from Commonwealth Division.
But again, that's not a homegrown system.
It's not a homegrown system, but still they can support because we have an international obligation.
But why didn't they do this in the past?
Yes, they tried many times, but it failed because political will also very important. Political leadership also very important. Because always we think the vote bank in Sri Lanka. Whether if you do like this, whether we will defeat. So those issues are there. But now, constantly you must think. Now we have to face, how many years we are facing this type of resolution. This must be end. not like Cambodia or South Korea or any other country. For that, we can have a system. That system, even that I have doubt, we can't go for a local mechanism. We need certain assistance from other countries because still we are running with a adversarial legal system.
When you had been pointing the finger at the Human Rights Commission in Sri Lanka, saying the system is very archaic, and you were also a part of the Human Rights Commission, Dr. Mahana Mehra. What is the reason behind this? We have a system in place, however, this particular system itself is defunct.
Actually, Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission was set up by 1996 Act, but even they can only give a recommendation. If no one implemented that recommendation, Commission can't do anything. So, Commission is not a court. The main function given by LLRC as well as National Human Rights Action Plan, when Dr. Navanithan Pillai visited, we had a dialogue with her. She said, your commission conduct education programs. So that's why they have given for us. Even LLRC, Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission, one and only target, run education programs.
How can the people have faith if that is the case in an establishment like the Human Rights Commission, Dr. Mahana Mehra?
Yeah, the system has to be changed. The act, we need several amendments, but people must trust. But they are conducting their work, and also some reports, it was not published. With that, the credibility, there is an issue.
Mr. Abhigunawardana, in this case, do we need a new constitution in the island?
Constitution, I think there are a lot of other things to happen before that. My worry is it's not the investigation that's the first priority. Because we are living in a different world altogether right now, especially after January 8, 2015. Now, as I mentioned earlier, the Tamil people, the people living in Sri Lanka, they have their own president. Until then, their candidate was defeated until 2015 January. So this is a different context altogether. In this setup, I don't think digging the past or investigation is the first priority. That can happen.
What is the first priority then?
Yeah, first priority is giving the freedom for the Tamil communities to take their decisions, to develop their areas. It's not paperwork. It's the practical situation that's on the ground which is important. So giving the power to them is the first priority. That's why I'm repeatedly saying that.
So you're saying like devolution of power?
No, I mean, what I'm saying is now, I think the Tamil leaders made a mistake on January 11 by not joining the then government. Then they tried to set up this national government because their candidate was the president. They could have easily put conditions and work with them. And even now, though they are they are in the opposition and they have the opposition leader, now for the Constitutional Council they appointed their representative, Mr. John Selilas. So this consensus is building up. Now the issue is now to develop these areas, how the Tamil representatives will join and how the power will be given for them to exercise their powers in those areas. So two instruments. We have the MPs in the parliament. They can exercise certain powers. Now we have these divisional coordinating committees taking decisions. They will be chairing those things and district level, and also the provincial council. So we have the mechanism. What we should do is to share the power at the center and give the resources for them to take decisions. But this is not paperwork.
But Mr. Abhigunawardana, you have to realize that the investigation part of it, as long as there is no step taken in that direction, pressure will continue to come from Geneva.
Yes, that's true. But as I pointed out
how
earlier,
does the government
that
deal
will have
with,
no significant
deal
impact
with that issue?
if there are no local agents here. If they have the local agents, we originally had, I mean, during the Rajapaksa regime, we had UNP indirectly motivating them. They were acting like the agents, and until recently the TNA did that job. So they had the local agents so that they have a footing on the ground. Now the situation has changed. Now if we can work together, and as communities, if we can work together, if we can develop the consensus, if the people are working, then irrespective of whatever decision taken in Geneva or the international pressure, it will have no impact at all. That's my stand.
Thank you, Mr. Abegunawardena. Now, earlier on, Mr. Varnasurya, you vociferously made a case for sovereignty, which I very much appreciate. However, Dr. Mahanamaheva, we are not living in isolation. We need the support of the international community. I mean, the best example is the previous government. How much of pressure there was from the international community. Now, the present government of Sri Lanka is trying to mend those broken ties. So, if we take the US resolution, it mentions Commonwealth judges. What is your take on that? Do you see this as a positive, in comparison with the hybrid system that was proposed by the UN High Commissioner for Human Rights?
But three systems are there. One is proposed by Honorable Foreign Minister in the first addressed Truth and Reconciliation Commission. There is one. Thereafter, this hybrid system. Now we are having an international system departing to a domestic one. So Commonwealth judges, that's a very good improvement. Even I look, very good features are there. Now when you are appointing a panel, you have to see two ways. Whether it's promotion of human rights and reconciliation, or whether you have to see and give them punishment. Now, many cases are there. If you read properly the earlier report, you can't prove this beyond reasonable doubt. That's why they didn't present that to Security Council. So, whether it's a criminal investigation or whether it's a human right investigation, decide that first. We have to see it first. Because whether we are going on the criminal manner or whether we go in the
Dr.
human rights.
I want to interrupt you for a second there. The reason that the resolution was not tabled at the UN Security Council was the simple fact that China and Russia would have voted against the resolution that was brought forward. But that was not a case with regard to reasonable doubt at that time. I just need to clarify that to you very clearly.
No, even both things are there. Now, if you really read the serious allegation which made, even several places I saw senior military officers' names were published.
But the UN was very silent about the final stage of the conflict until 2009. They started raising their voice during the very latter stages of the conflict, Dr. Mahanamaheva.
I agree with that. Now, the situation you asked, Commonwealth judges.
Excuse me, I don't think it's only Commonwealth judges. If you look, there's a few other words that include judges from other countries also, though you have put the word in the forefront, Commonwealth.
I tried to make an intervention and you said I can't. Can you intervene in this?
Yes, no, you can intervene in
well,
this.
I was trying to, and I'm wondering.
You could intervene.
Yeah.
Let me hear the views of Ms. Dastri. Yes, I'll give you 30 seconds, Ms. Dastri.
No, I'll hand the mic over to him.
Right. Mr. Varnasurya, yes.
No, I just needed 10 seconds to ask you because you posed a question to Mr. Dastri, which was a valid one, where that you said the complaint was that the efforts we had taken earlier were not genuine. Then my counter question was what I was going to pose to you in 10 seconds. You could have continued with the conversation. Was, well, then does it say that what the world is suggesting is going to be genuine? I mean, if they say, okay, what Sri Lanka did was not genuine, what makes us think that just because some foreigner comes here, that's going to be genuine? I mean, it's a very simple argument. That's all I wanted to say.
Mr. Varnasurya, I recollect a few weeks ago, prior to the August 17 general elections, when we had a chat at this particular forum itself, you said,
I hope we're not discussing
prior to the 8th of January, you said the rule of law in Sri Lanka was not right, there needs to be change, and that is why you even supported a political party at that time. However, now you are saying that we have a good system in place.
No, Shamir, don't. I am still saying that there's a long way to go. I agree with all my colleagues here that we don't have a perfect system. And I must also correct Mr. Dastri, I did not take the blame away from lawyers. Lawyers are included in the system. Yes, we are also to blame. But what I'm trying to say is, we cannot. I would like to get more help than our constitution allows and make a quicker, better system. But our constitution does not allow for it. The struggle continues, Shamir. Rule of law must be implemented and we have to fight for it. But we must fight for it within the four corners of our law, and that's all I'm trying to say.
Isn't this a victory in terms of this government as far as strengthening its ties with international community?
Let me put it, better than what it was last year, but a long way to go more.
Thank you very much.
Still I have to answer the question.
Yes.
I need time.
Yes,
Right.
Mr. Hanif.
Now we need Commonwealth judges
Yeah.
because we have to share.
Yeah.
Now, if it is a criminal matter, yes, we have the law system here. But if it is human right, you have to remember universal rights. Anywhere in the world, a human being there, the United Nations Declaration apply. So therefore, my argument, Krishmal, it is not a criminal matter, but we all get together. There can be judges from Malaysia, there can be judges from India, but the president should be from Sri Lanka. And also, this is not a court. Please remember, this is not a court. Because as he said, we can't set up courts like that. The parliament, we need the parliament consent. Other than that, we can't have. But we can have a tribunal. In that tribunal,
Fact-finding.
yeah, fact-finding, and also they are making recommendations. Those recommendations finally to be fulfilled or implemented through parliament. So that's why which shows
all
that
their allegations put
Yeah.
through court.
Now, if not implemented, can the US-sponsored resolution impact Sri Lanka adversely? All this and more after this short commercial break. Stay connected, stay with Face the Nation. Welcome back. This is Face the Nation. We move on to the third round. We start off with Mr. Gumin Dastri, Senior Attorney at Law. Ms. Dastri, isn't this an improvement to what we saw earlier in reference to the previous regime's conduct? The time starts now.
Yes. If you say that you are going to have some inquiry, domestic inquiry, it's a great improvement. But that improvement has been blurred by this introduction of the foreign element. Remember, my reading of it was Commonwealth and other judges, prosecutors, investigators and defense counsel. So you are bringing the whole lot in. My question is, here there were so many hurrahs given for the government in this resolution. But when it comes to the final critical issue, they don't seem to have confidence in the government. The government was saying we are going to have a domestic mechanism. Now that is where they are going to embarrass, because whatever pantomime show you have here, the jury is the people. The government finally has to go to the people. People means the Sinhala people, the Tamil people, the Muslim people, all people of Sri Lanka. They must be satisfied. The question is, can a foreign group here perform whatever they do with the media, their media here? Will Sri Lankans take to it? That is the ultimate question, because finally it is the Sri Lankan society you have to join, the joiner has to come there, so that we must ensure that there is satisfaction given to the people, and it is for that reason I say the Americans have blown it. They could have given the government the opportunity of having it their way because they were going the right direction. But don't make it uncomfortable. Make the government probably lose faith on this. And there are divisions within the government. What they have done is weaken a government that was in the making.
Right direction. Can you explain a little bit more about
The
that?
right direction would have been leave it to the people's representatives. They had a mechanism, a domestic mechanism. That was what they were envisaging. Because what is really necessary is this is a matter of a communal battle flowing into a terrorist war. Now, it is best that peers decide it. I mean, let eminent people decide through our own laws for which we have the necessary mechanism, the Commission of Inquiry Act. Appoint people, have foreign observers, have foreign experts, have foreign technical know-how. They can help the government by improving the quality of judges, give the judges the necessary training, give the people, give the required organizations the necessary counsel, help them financially.
Thank you very much.
But not put foreigners into this mold and expect them to make Sri
Thank you very
Lanka
much,
a happy
Ms.
place.
Dastri. I now move on to Mr. Krishmal Varanasurya. Let's not have international monitors, let's not have international investigators, let's not have international judges. We should have a homegrown system, that is according to Ms. Dastri. Do you agree with that statement?
Not necessarily, not necessarily, but I have to agree, I mean all three of us as lawyers have to agree in the principle that we can't recognize other judicial bodies. That's all what we're trying to say. Now, can I just take you through it and you'll understand what I'm trying to say. We have, because I have 2 minutes, I'm going to rush through this. We have already ratified the UN Convention we are bound by. Right? So, we are under obligation by the United Nations. We have also ratified what is called the Vienna Convention of '69 on the law of treaties, where we say that states must comply in good faith with all treaties. We are bound by that. Now, we have also bound by certain optional protocols in the ICCPR, and our people can take an application to the Human Rights Committee. Now, all of this has been tested, Shamil, in the Singharasa case, a landmark case in 2006, where the Supreme Court, 5 judges, if I remember correctly, 5 divisional bench, held that even if the president of the country has gone and ratified an international treaty, no sooner that violates Article 3 and 4C, judicial power that I spoke of earlier, of the Constitution, that goes out. We cannot give effect to it. And then they went on to say, even if they enacted law in Parliament, any law that seeks to give effect to a UN human rights decision must be approved by a 2/3 majority of Parliament and by a referendum of the people. So I am just facing the reality here. Our law as it stands today will not allow for such an international intervention in our judicial system. So the decision makers now must come out, talk to experts and come out with a way. I'm saying, like, let's have experts from overseas, let's have people to help us. But we cannot bring them within our system. Why? Because there is this law that stands in our way, and that's a decision of court. We have to find a way of circumventing it and overcoming it whilst not getting the world angry. That's all what we're trying to say. We need to find a way of doing it in terms of the law. Because even if this government violates the law, it's a violation of the law.
We should not get the world angry, but must we act based on the whim and fancy of the international community, Mr. Varnasurya?
Absolutely not. That's what I've been trying to say. The sovereign Sri Lankan citizens, the sovereign power hold in this country. We do not need to act on the whim and fancy of the international community. But let us remember, although we are an island surrounded by sea, we are in a global village. We have to live with the rest of the world. That's why we have ratified certain conventions. We got to work within them.
Thank you very much, Mr. Varnasurya. I now move on to Dr. Pratibha Mahanameheva. Dr. Mahanameheva, let's say we do not abide by this US-sponsored resolution. Where do you position Sri Lanka in the next few years? If
Excellent
this is
question.
The case?
We totally ignore this. We totally reject this report. They can't do anything. Only thing, they can criticize Sri Lanka, and thereafter United Nations Human Rights Council, even they can't pass any resolution if not implemented this, or even we not followed this recommendation. The one and only action they can do it, refer this to Security Council, and then with that system they can impose certain type of economic sanctions or visa sanctions, or even restricting certain other things. So other than that, there are several countries now. Cuba, how many UN resolutions they ignored? They don't hear it. South Korea, Zimbabwe. Finally, Zimbabwe got into the trap because of this resolution. They referred to Security Council. There, they took certain economic embargoes and restrictions. So we can keep it. Now, Sri Lanka, there are 2 types of opinions. One side they say, totally reject this. The other side say, no, we will cooperate. We'll go with UN. But still, in this country, those 2 opinions are there. But the government say, basically, they reject the hybrid court system. But, as everyone agree, we go for a domestic system. I like this domestic system, but we need technical assistance. We need, because we have ratified certain conventions. We got Child Right Convention, the committee is there. And also Universal Periodical Report 2016, Millennium Development Goals. Why all this? Because we signed. So, we have a self-respect for those things, and also self-implementation is very much needed. We have not signed the Rome Statute, therefore we are not worried about that system. But whatever within this system, we have to find out, maybe UN, whatever the convention, it should be oriented with social, cultural issues. This is country where values are more important, and also religion. reconciliation is there. Every day reconciliation is happening. That's why Ban Ki-moon said, when, as Asoka said, immediately after the provincial council election, even I monitored that. All EU team was there. All ambassadors were there. And they were looking, any type of, serious things are happening, but nothing. Then Ban Ki-moon said, political reconciliation commenced in Sri Lanka with the provincial council election. That is a very good statement. And finally what it happened, it's spreading island-wide.
Thank you very much, Dr. Padiva Mahanameheva. I now move on to Mr. Asoka Abegunawardena. Mr. Abegunawardena, you're amidst three lawyers. I put you as a professional in terms of your profession because you are an engineer. How do you view the US-sponsored resolution?
Yeah, actually, now we need to understand, if you look at the broader picture, this is not a legal issue. This is political and this is social. So the real solutions should happen within the framework of politics and social justice and how, consensus building. So in this context, I see that the intervention of the international community is negative, as they were doing in the other countries as well. It will not contribute towards a positive direction. It will lead to deteriorating the situation. Like, we were in the path of healing the wounds. Now it's going to be disturbed, and digging the past will lead towards another direction. But now what we have to do is, well, it's happening. It's happening internationally. So how we are going to face it? That's the issue we need to discuss. And fortunately for us, now as we have a new government, the local context has changed, because until January 8, we had an issue. We really had an issue regarding certain things happening in the country. Now that era is over. So gradually, those who were opposing the local regime and those who were towards pro-international interventions, now they have to face it. So here, what we have to discuss is how, the major two Sinhala parties, they should get together to face this challenge that's coming from the international community. And also, we definitely have to win the hearts of the Tamil community. Without doing that, we cannot face this. As Pratibha pointed out, irrespective of whether that's influential or that will have a impact on the country, anyway we have to resolve this issue. We have to resolve this issue and make the country one country so that we can work together. So, my key answer to all these questions is share the power at the center. That will resolve the issues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asoka Abegunawardena. Food for thought indeed. Whatever mechanism are brought forward, whatever mechanisms are introduced, it should be in a united framework. Journalists?
Thanks, Shamir. Dr. Mahanameheva and Mr. Varnasuri, I'd just like to make clarification. Dr. Mahanameheva, your position is that we need technical assistance, even if it is a domestic mechanism. We need assistance from the UN or the Commonwealth. And basically what you were trying to say, Mr. Varnasuri, I'll condense it for the benefit of our viewers, is that even to get such assistance from the UN or the Commonwealth, there are legal obstacles.
No. To get assistance, we won't have. For example, put a practical situation. In a court of law, we have our courts of law operating, but an expert opinion, technical advices to judges, that we do not need to go through a parliamentary amendment and referendum and all that. It is only if we are to vest the judicial power of the people, that is someone other than Sri Lankan court system judging someone, then it has to go through a Sri Lankan parliamentary.
The foreign minister, in his address to the UN Human Rights Council in Geneva, he was talking about enacting establishing bodies through statute, Truth and Reconciliation Commission, the Compassionate Council, etc. All of these bodies, enacting them through statute. Are there any obstacles to the establishment of those bodies within the Constitution?
Sorry, Maha.
Yeah.
No. Frankly, there is no impediment to Sri Lankan Parliament establishing any further institutes exercising our judicial power. There is nothing preventing that. What the law says, as it's interpreted now, is if we are trying to enforce a foreign authority or a foreign judicial authority by us ratifying or trying to follow some international convention, which is seen as a violation of our sovereign powers. Because in Sri Lanka, only the sovereign powers of the Sri Lankan citizen given to our judicial, like whatever courts we have now, or what the foreign minister, what he says, he will implement, that's fine. As long as it's not seen as an infringement of our sovereign power. The moment it oversteps that mark, then what law says is, then you can't do it. You have to take it through a process of legislation with a 2/3 majority, because why? You're touching that Article 3 sovereign power of the citizen and a referendum.
Dr. Manav.
Even a commission appointed to punish him, the indictment must be served by Honorable Attorney General. So, other than that, promotion work you can do it. Totally I agree. Let's see the disappearance commission, the Sparnagama commission, appointed by President Mende. And also, foreign experts were there. Foreign experts were there. Former president appointed foreign experts. Why? To get their experience. That is where we have to see. Most of the time, our judges are leading. There is nothing to worry about that. But we have to get the assistance. Because we are under one system, UN system. For that, we have to be trained. Sri Lanka Human Rights Commission was trained to do a national inquiry. We were about to start the torture inquiry.
So basically what I understand is that if any mechanism that is established, if there is a foreign prosecutor or even a foreign judge, that would require to be passed by a 2/3 majority in Parliament.
Daddy, you're giving a very ad hoc situation. Without looking at the mechanism, we won't be able to say yes or no. No lawyer will comment on that.
So what I'm trying to realize is this.
I understand. I completely understand the question. But when you're saying a foreign prosecutor, it depends on how is that prosecutor going to get his powers from? Through the Aegis department, by working with the state council, for example, or is he going to come into one of our courtrooms and start filing indictment and start prosecuting? Then when you say foreign judge, are you thinking of taking
this is exactly what I'm trying to get at.
Yeah,
because we don't know the contents
of the resolution. No, but what we're trying to do,
Nadeem,
is trying to put the horse before the cart. Let the state come out with the system first. Yeah. How are they trying to implement this resolution? Then we can comment on whether they're legal or not.
Yeah. So Mr. Dayasri, I come to you now, because so far we haven't seen. Correct me if I'm wrong, we haven't seen the actual contents of the resolution.
We've seen the actual contents of the resolution.
Until 30th, you can't say that.
Until
September
the 30th, we can't say
still
that
it is
this
negotiating.
is the
the resolution has now been tabled.
Now it has been tabled. The final
The resolution has now been tabled.
That's also draft form.
Yeah, it
That's
can
the
be
draft
amended.
form, that's right.
the draft form. So we have the draft form of the resolution. So until it is actually adopted by the council, whether by vote or by consensus, everything that we're talking about in terms of having foreign judges and foreign prosecutors is conjecture.
It's going to be on consensus, because Sri Lanka is coming on board as
a co-sponsor. Yeah, I know that, but I'm saying regardless, until it is passed by consensus or otherwise, until it is passed, us talking about foreign judges and foreign prosecutors is conjecture, isn't it?
Correct. It's not finalized. And also don't forget the 2nd of October, because there is a counter proposal given, which the UN must respond to us on. So I think we have to wait till the 2nd to actually see what's going to happen.
Ms. Dayasri, for a second, I want to interrupt you for a minute there. Dr. Mahana Meheva and Mr. Varun Surya are of the opinion that technical assistance is a must. What are your thoughts on this?
Yes, I think that's useful, because any knowledge gained is to our benefit. I mean, we don't know everything that well in this country. There's a lot of development, there's a lot of technical know-how. So that is useful. That is the kind of contribution we look forward to from abroad. Not get involved in the very determinations. Leave that to us. Leave it to the people of this country, those elected, let the people's peers do that. But we need for assistance, we need technical assistance, we need proper training, so that if we have that kind of thing, the country also improves. The judicial system improves, the judges improve. So let's have that kind of input. But instead of that, don't bring in the actors, because we do not know how they act. We know how they have acted so far. That is not in the interest of this country. I mean, if we acted the way the foreigners want, that we would have still been negotiating. There would have been peace talks going. But we took things into hands and did it well. America commended our efforts in eliminating terrorism. Don't think we are a hopeless country, we are a lost country. We have a lot of ability, we have talent, we have competence. but we lack know-how. So
What is the objective of the international community, Mr. Dayasri?
International community is a very funny word, because
What is the objective of the West? Am I narrowing it down?
shall we call it the West or the interfering international bodies? I think that's a more apt term, because when you say internationalize in it, you must look at the whole UN system. That's about over 198 countries. Now they don't take part in this, and even if you look at the Commonwealth, look, only 3 countries in the Commonwealth voted with us. It's only Maldives, Pakistan and Kenya who voted with us. So don't think Commonwealth is all that a friendly organization. You know that Canada didn't even participate. So that when I say international, we need cooperation from all. Let us get that going, but not get here involved in the act. Now that is what is happening in Cambodia. Cambodia, if you remember, is a country where US had connections with Pol Pot. Because why? Because the previous Pol Pot was being ousted by the Vietnamese, who was close to the Russians. So US safeguarded in the jungles of Thailand the biggest violator of human rights. So don't think America is all that clean. So we have to look at it from different perspectives, look at it broadly, comprehensively, and do what is best for us. And us means whom? The people, not only the Sinhalese, the Tamils, the Muslims, everybody. Look at them and do what is best. For undoubtedly the last government faltered by not having a domestic mechanism. That is what we has got into. The problem is at that point. You see, in this country, look at, for example, if we do things properly, what a lot of glory we get. Now look at the election commissioner. He's a hero in the eyes of people. Why? Because he was able to have a good election, clean election. Look at the police. The police was so, everybody blamed the police till this present IGP came. He's an honorable man. He has put the thing right. Now even the Human Rights Commission, I know my friend did a good job, but what did the commissioner, the chairman do? Did nothing. Ask Mr. Mahanama, he will tell you that what he tried to do was also prevented. That's what he said in a morning talk show.
Mr. Dayasri. Mr. Abe Gunawardena, now on the same lines, Prime Minister Wickremesinghe was in India last week, he'll be in Japan next week. President is in the US. My question to you is the incumbent government trying to seduce the international community, or do you see this in a positive way?
Well, that's an important question. Now, I agree with others as well. Now, the pressure of the international community will lead nowhere as far as the investigation is concerned. But this is an opportunity for India to grab and to have a different agenda. That's a different approach altogether, because they are not playing a key role there, but for the internal issues and the relationship between India and Sri Lanka, they can capitalize on it. So we need to be very careful in political terms, not in within the framework of the legal framework, but there are other interests behind these things. So we need to be very careful how we face this. That's why I am saying, if we are to face this challenge, we must get together locally. It's a local solution. Firstly, the 2 major parties should get together to face this, irrespective of whether we oppose this or agree. Immaterial. Whatever, whether we are going to compromise or whether we are rigid on this matter, it's immaterial, but the 2 major political parties should get together, and also we should extend the hands to the representatives of the Tamil community. If we can achieve that, only then we can address the issue of the Indian concerns. So now the Prime Minister's approach, we are not clear in which direction these discussions are leading, but we need to face this reality, and in order to face that, we need to look after our national interests. So it's very important for us to.
I like to add one thing.
Yes.
Yes.
1 minute. I like to add one thing. 2014, I was in Geneva. I saw this demonstration. LTT biased diaspora. They started massive demonstration in the UN complex. Thereafter, they used tear gas. But this time, no demonstration. All are very peaceful. That means, internationally, most of these issues, we can settle.
I have a question, Dr. Mahana Mehra. The United States, we saw the manner in which the invasion of Afghanistan, we saw the manner in which how the West invaded Iraq. After a few years, it was determined that there was no weapons of mass destruction in Iraq, a British report highlighted. Why focus so much on this tiny island, Sri Lanka? What is the reason behind this?
This is because LTT diaspora as well as Tamil Nadu. Now Jayalalitha are fully silent. So they are the people who need go for international investigation. This time little bit silent. Nadumaran, Rudrakumaran, Father Emmanuel, Castro, all these leaders, now they are little bit silent because internationally this government has grabbed their support. Now they are isolated. I mean, can you see any type of press release issued by Rudrakumaran very recently? No. So they have to work united. So TNA also they are supporting. Even Sumandiran criticized this chief minister passing a genocide resolution in the provincial council. So now you can see, as Asoka said, now everyone, we should come to one line. International, transnational LTT government is no more now.
Yes,
Can I give you a different answer within 30 seconds?
Yes.
Economic interest. Your question is, why is the US interested in us so much? My question to you, why is any country interested in us so much? Because, Shamir, historically, we are at a geopolitical location where Sri Lanka's geopolitics is important for a lot of countries. For India, to balance the Indian Ocean zone. I'm going very quickly. For China, to balance India. For American, the South Sea routes that cross Sri Lanka, because even if we are living in 2015 now and we can order say a 15.5 cuff shirt from Harrods of London, it must still be delivered via ships. And the easiest place for whether it's to transmit Voice of America or for ships to come is Sri Lanka. So everyone historically has been having an interest in Sri Lanka. So we must all in this equation be very careful of Greeks bearing gifts, because there is an interest in Sri Lanka that goes beyond human rights, I must say.
With what you're saying right now, Mr. Varana, so it seems that what the former regime did, the Rajapaksa regime did, was justifiable.
No, I'm not saying that. I am saying that on one point I agree with Mr. Dasi on that. It is because of the last regime not having done the domestic mechanism that we had to face a lot of music. That's what I'm saying. But let's also not forget, as I said, Geneva politics, Geneva marketing goes beyond human rights. Yes, we tackle issues before us, but there are political and economic ramifications underneath which we must be aware of and use that to our strategic interest when we tackle these issues. That's what I'm saying.
Winning the hearts of the Tamil community, how best to do this? Dr. Mahana Mehra.
Yes, I totally see after the provincial council election, most of these LTT cadres rehabilitated. Even Prabhakaran's bodyguard contest for the election, but he failed to win. He failed to win. So now that reconciliation has been commenced. There are 186 hardcore LTTs. Now they are going to suspect LTTs, they are going to file cases. Now the freedom is there. With that, we need a constitution which recognizes most of their rights. That's why my argument, chapter 3 of this constitution must be fully amended. And we need a new constitution, and also power sharing also needed. Within the provincial council, it is actually a decision where we can further go into grassroots level. So within the heart of the Tamil community is the best. Other than that, I can remember Dilip Singh, Indian representative for the last UNHRC session. Even Mr. Dayasri said only 3 countries voted. He said, we are with Sri Lanka, but we are not going to vote. There were 12 countries. They abstained from voting. Most of them are
Dr. Manu, can I ask you, is the implementation of the 13th Amendment, is it necessary to ensure reconciliation and progress for Sri Lanka?
I think so. Because 13th Amendment is a solution we are granted. It is a legal part of the Constitution. So therefore, rather than restricting, we must open now.
Ms. Dastri, you are a constitutional lawyer. How important is it to change the Constitution?
This constitution has to be changed because it has such an absolutely frivolous situation where you can't even dissolve a government, the parliament cannot have an election for 4.5 years. So that kind of thing has to be amended. But at the same time, you can't in a way completely do away with this constitution also. I mean, the electoral system has to be important, has to be changed. Number of things have to be done, but they have to be done systematically and in an organized way, not in an ad hoc manner. Now what we are doing is, everything is done in a very ad hoc manner. Now the 19th amendment is a failure as much as the 18th, and everybody is saying that it needs amendment. So is this going to end? Where is this finality coming? Because now we have amended it 20 times. Probably in the next few months. So that I think time has come when we must look at it broad-basely, bring in all elements and have a very comprehensive document in our hands.
Ms. Astri, a new constitution probably would keep you on your toes as well, going to courts always and probably protesting against it, as we saw what you did in the 19th Amendment to the Constitution.
Yes, but I really would prefer to have, not to go and challenge these things, but to have things in its proper place, because this country doesn't need challenges. We have enough challenges coming from abroad. I think, if I may be able to wind up, if I may say this please, that is, I think this government took a very positive step of having a domestic mechanism. I also feel that the foreign elements, I'm saying the West, is not interested in this government or in Mahinda Rajapaksa. They have their own objectives, and it is that is making life difficult for the present government when they are bringing in this element of foreign presence into the hybrid system. Now the government said very clearly that they were going to have a domestic mechanism, and everybody was wanting a domestic mechanism. It's only when they agreed to a domestic mechanism that they started this hybrid system. And then when the hybrid system was under challenge, they brought in foreign judges, foreign prosecutors, foreign investigators, foreign defense counsel. So this is an organized effort to discredit the war, to bring Sri Lanka into shame, and also I think the fist of the foreigner, they want to intervention of some sort.
Thank you very much, Ms. Dasri. We now move on to the final round of the show, Face the Nation. Our topic of discussion today revolves around the US-sponsored resolution. Let's start off the final round with Dr. Pratibha Mahanameheva. What is the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka? Now we have a resolution. We have to ensure that we stick to this resolution and implement it. What is the way forward?
Yeah.
Your time starts now.
Yeah. Finally, UNHRC as well as the West as US really recognized Sri Lanka military force. They conducted in a very disciplined manner as well as a professional manner. That means we have won the heart. Now what we have to do, we have to commence the reconciliation. That is the best according to my idea. Even I support for a Truth and Reconciliation Commission with the South African model, which can suit for Sri Lanka, where whatever happened, going to past. But in future, how we are going to win the heart? It takes time. It is a process. It may not finish 1 or 2 years' time. So every time, what we have to see, support for this system. And also I urge from anyone, any political leader, to support for a national inquiry rather than these international inquiries. To support for that, Parliament, there must be a special committee or cabinet subcommittee which can discuss with human rights activities, civil society, how to promote and activate the system back. We have to win the seat. 47 countries, UNHRC members. Sri Lanka previously was a member. But now, last years we have lost that. So how to win that? The best system is this. So that's why the foreign minister said in his first speech, where Truth and Reconciliation Commission as well as Disappearance Commission, and also see all these in amalgamate rather than any other inquiry, we have to finish by next year everything. Other than that, it will hamper the development of the country.
Thank you very much, Dr. Pratibha Mahanameheva. I now move on to Mr. Asoka Begunwardhan, Chairman of the Strategic Management Enterprise Agency. What is the way forward?
Yes, now I have to disagree on 2 points with the others. Firstly, finding a solution through amending the constitution will lead nowhere, because that will if we are to discuss about devolving power, then that will strengthen the extremist groups on both sides. So what is needed is not a paperwork. What is needed is something happening on the ground. For that purpose, I think the previous regime made a mistake by trying to implement a development program in the north, particular, and in eastern province to a certain extent on their own, without working their representatives of the Tamil community. That happened not only in the northern east, but that happened in the other areas as well. Ignoring the political setup, they tried to do on their own. So the thing that should happen right now for the present government is to work with the representatives of the Tamil community. That will relieve the pressure by removing the local agents of this so-called international community. Secondly, we should be very careful while developing the international relations. Foreign affairs is a key. We need to have a proper strategy towards that. Handling US, handling India, and also handling China. We need to be very careful, and we need to balance this, because they have their own interests. If we fail to balance this, then we will get into a trap. So we should be very careful how to balance India and China at the same time. I mean, the previous experience was not that helpful for us to develop our strategy, because biasing more towards China had an issue. But now if we are trying to be more with India, that will lead to another issue. So as experts mentioned earlier, financially I don't think we will get anything from US or India, but from China we can have certainties. So balancing the international forces and having the right strategy is very important at this stage to address this issue.
Thank you very much, Mr. Asoka Begunawardana. I now move on to Senior Attorney at Law, Mr. Gomin Dastri. Ms. Dastri, there was change on the 8th of January. On the 17th of August this year, a UNP-led government was elected by the people of this country. How must this government protect the interest of the people? The time starts now.
Yes. This government on paper is the strongest, because never before have we had the two major parties joining together. They have joined, there's a president from one party, a prime minister from another. Mathematically, it's the strongest lineup we could get. Then let's look at the other hurrahs. Look at the US resolutions. Look at the number of paragraphs that they have set aside to acclaim the achievements of this government. Now, with all this on our plus side, why is it that we still have to fall back on having to have foreign intervention? That is where the government can really show the people that they have their interest. They should negotiate still further with the US, show their good faith, show their bona fides, and say, look, let us have our own system of justice in this country. One final point on the question of devolution. Devolution is necessary, but not to the provincial councils. I say devolution must go to the grassroots, devolve down to the village councils. Give the people power, give the people strength. It's the people who must come forward, because that is the only way you can stop corruption in this country.
Thank you very much, Mr. Gomin Dastri, Senior Attorney at Law. I now move on to Mr. Krishmal Varunasuriya, who is also an attorney at law. Mr. Varunasuriya, what is the way forward for a country like Sri Lanka? Where do you see Sri Lanka in the next 1 year?
Good question, Shamir. I'm going to surprise you with the answer. Shall I tell you what I see, like a forecast?
Yes, please.
This resolution is going to go through. I believe that it's time that we saw some reconciliation. We have to appease the genuine grievances of not just the Tamil community, any community that has suffered through the war. There has to be a process of eliminating the anguish. There has to be a closure to the issue. Something in the form of that closure must come, and therefore something is necessary to break that barrier, break the ice, and move forward and forge a true Sri Lankan identity soon. We need to do that. Now, why I say this resolution is going to go through is, I have the highest respect for the Honourable Prime Minister and the Honourable Foreign Minister. They are both experienced politicians. I believe that they would have seen this long time before, that even to amend the law touching the judicial power of the people, you're going to need a 2/3 majority in Parliament. The entire scenario of a joint Parliament where you're sharing ministries. You know, the more we are together, the merrier will be. Your friend is my friend is your friend. The TNA becomes opposition. They deserve to. They had the 16 seats. Then the chief opposition will be becoming another party. So everyone in parliament working together, I think, has been foreseen that somewhere down the line you're going to need a 2/3 majority to change our judicial systems. So I believe that this resolution will go ahead. But I hope, for the sake of sanctity in the country and the sanctity of our law, that we will still respect the basic fundamentals of our sovereign power, that we will still try to limit it to, as we all agree, all three lawyers here and Ms. limit the expert assistance, the technical assistance, limit the interventions to that. Get the world to assist us, certainly. Get the advice from the world, certainly. Get all the experts to come on board with us, certainly. But without destroying the fabric of a judicial system that we have safeguarded for a long time. So as long as that rule of law persists in the country, I think we need to go forward. We need to find a solution, and I believe this is coming far from where it was.
Thank you very much, Mr. Pushpa Vajrasurya. Thank you very much, Dr. Pratibha Mahanamheva. Mr. Asokabya Guruvardhan, nice to have you on board. And thank you very much, Mr. Govindasthi, for joining us third week in a row on this show. Thank you very much, Sonali, and thank you very much, Nadine, for joining us this evening. Just a pointer to the government. On the 8th of January this year, people voted in for change. They had a lot of expectations. They are watching the conduct of this government. Do not let the people down. I leave it tonight with a quote by Dag Hammarskjöld, former UN Secretary General. Never measure the height of a mountain until you reach the top. Then you will see how low the mountain was. Take care and good night.